So, all right, I'm officially welcoming everybody to our 2022 State of the Village meeting. And State of the Village is a tradition throughout the village movement. I think most villages do this. We think of all of you as our shareholders, our stakeholders. And so we just want to be transparent and upfront about what's happening in our development. And we've presented different materials over the years, but this year it just coincides with the unveiling of our new 5-year strategic plan, which we completed in December. So it's really exciting for staff and board and those of us who've worked on this for so long to be able to share it with you. So the lay of the land here for the next hour, we're going to get through the presentation of the strategic plan, hopefully in 20 minutes. That's my goal. And then Sarah's going to break us up into discussion groups, breakout groups here on Zoom. And we're going to have a discussion. We have a few questions that we want to prompt your thinking, basically about what does this mean to you? And how can you utilize this in your neighborhood circle? Or what do these values mean to you as you dream up of a new program idea? Or so we have a few different guiding questions, which Sarah will share with you in the chat in a few minutes. And then we'll come back together as a large group for the last 20 minutes and just hear some of the highlights of what took place in your breakout rooms. Okay. So before we get the show started, I just have a quick announcement to make. I don't think most of you know this, but about 3 weeks ago, I had an accident. I fell. Sound familiar? And I broke my hip.
Oh.
Ouch. So I'm coming to you from my living room, sitting right next to my walker. And I am 3 weeks into my recovery and doing really well, according to the doctor and the PT and my daughter and everybody else. So I just wanted to let you know that the staff and the board have been extraordinary in how they responded. They set up a meal train and got me. I am fat and sassy, I can tell you that. And everything is going along according to plan. So hopefully by mid-March, I'll be off the walker, using a cane, and hopefully able to drive into the city, into the office. So just wanted you to know that. And that's that. I'm good. And okay, so I am going to share my screen and we're going to get into this strategic plan. Okay, give me just a second. Oh, here it is. And we're going to start from the beginning. Where is that? Oh, excuse me. There we go. Okay, everybody sees that. Okay, great. So, all right. So here we are 2 years into the pandemic. We were just commenting on this a few minutes ago about, this being our second virtual State of the Village meeting. Who could have predicted this, right? When things locked down in March of 2020 and they told us it was going to be a couple of months. I remember myself just feeling like a couple of months, that's crazy. And here we are 2 years into it. But the truth is that the pandemic has revealed a lot of things to us on systemic levels, on community levels, on personal levels. And just some of the things that I think the pandemic has revealed. And we have lots of evidence to this, the inequality that exists within our society and the way that that COVID has impacted people in different ways. Much more significantly in the African-American and Latinx communities. Racism, on the heels of the lockdown, we saw the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and the Black Lives Matter movement and all of this happening at once. It seems to be kind of the great revealer in a way. vulnerabilities of so many types, personal and family vulnerabilities, and organizational, system-wide vulnerabilities. But at the same time, we've also learned a lot about resilience. We've learned a lot about the inherent strength in ourselves and in our communities. That's certainly been true for San Francisco Village. We have discovered a lot about our resilience and our ability to help one another and to strengthen those ties that we've been building for over a decade. And of course, connectedness. There's nothing like a viral pandemic to let us know that we're all connected to each other. And so through this process, we began to, how many times have you seen on a bus shelter or a bench that you drive by and you see this slogan, "We're in this together"? That's been one of the emergent values that's come out of this pandemic. People understanding that together we're better, or we can't survive on our own. We need each other. And this is a value that has been operationalized at San Francisco Village from the very beginning, since we were founded 13 years ago. So it's interesting to me that those values that underpin our organization are emerging now in the larger zeitgeist. The notion of an infrastructure for care. We've been talking about this now at the national political level for over a year. And it amazes me that we're having that conversation. It's exciting if the Congress can ever pass it. But this is how we describe what we do at San Francisco Village. We're an infrastructure for care. We built that. It didn't exist before we built it. And I think it's significant that our values and larger social values are aligning. And then this phrase, the inescapable network of mutuality, that's a quote from Martin Luther King, but it has long guided me in my work at San Francisco Village. So I think that it's true to say that culturally, a lot of conversations are taking place that we're in need of a new story that elevates our connectedness, that elevates our humanity and our interdependence. That's happening at a much larger scale now. And San Francisco Village is part of that new story because of the investment that we've made for these 13 years in those exact values. So in early 2020, the board of directors and I were having a conversation about the need for a new strategic plan. And we were actually interviewing some consultants to help us with that. And then we were just stopped in our tracks. March 16th, I'll never forget the date, when we had to close the office and when everything locked down. And then we began thinking about, we put the strategic plan on the back burner for a few minutes because we had to reinvent ourselves, to keep you all connected and supplied and safe. And then just a few short months later was the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and the Black Lives Matter movement during the summer of 2020. And it became really clear to us that we needed to take a breath, we needed to pause, and we needed to think about our own understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's clear to everybody that San Francisco Village, and I would say the vast majority of villages across the country, are predominantly white. And we operate in a white dominant culture. And so this question of what does it mean to be a predominantly white organization in a white dominant culture, that became a central question for us as board and staff, wanting to understand, actually wanting to make conscious what was unconscious, which is what I think happened for a lot of us during the last couple of years. Understanding what is white dominant culture and how do I unconsciously contribute to it? What is privilege? a lot of questions that were coming up in the culture. I think we took the bold step to begin that self-examination as an organization. So we hired a consultant and we began to do a deep dive into reflecting on these really important questions. And we worked with her for close to a year. And then overlapping in the spring of 2021, we hired a strategic planning consultant to begin this process of, okay, we've looked at some questions of equity and diversity and inclusion. Now, how does that influence our future? What kind of an organization do we want to be? And what that resulted in is really our commitment to equity, to making that conscious, that we want to leverage our privilege. We want to leverage what we've built to include more people, people of all ages, races, cultures, and abilities, and to be more thoughtful about that. And by making that commitment, we're also saying that it's going to change our behavior. It's going to change the way that we reach out into communities that are underserved. It's going to change how we look at partnerships. Who do we want to partner with? What are the kinds of programs that we want to design? How do we want to engage all of you in that collective process? And what I want to make really clear is that there are a lot of things that will not change about San Francisco Village. And first and foremost is our commitment that we connect older San Franciscans to the community resources and expertise they need to navigate the transitions of aging in a changing world. This has been true from day one. This is what we do. And over the last 13 years, we have built this infrastructure that I talked about for delivering social care. And what I mean by that are these examples right here on the slide. High quality relationships, access to resources, mutual aid and support, opportunities for volunteerism. Social integration is a fancy way of saying that I know that I belong. And that's just one of the most fundamental human needs there is, knowing that I belong. I belong to other people. I belong to something bigger than myself. I'm needed. I matter. All of that. And that comes from, we believe that comes from San Francisco Village membership, and knowing that we contribute to the greater good. So what also does not change is that we are built on principles of reciprocity and interdependence. Like I said earlier, we're looking to leverage that. We're looking to leverage our good fortune and our privilege so that we can include more people. And something else that doesn't change is that membership in San Francisco Village is for people over 60. So when we're talking about intergenerational community, which you're going to hear more about in the next few minutes, we're talking about how we interact with different generations, how we include people, volunteers and program people and innovative idea people and partners, that we recognize that we're a microcosm in a much larger macrocosm. Is that a word? I'm not sure. But anyway, you get my drift, that we're connected to the generations, and we want to make that explicit. So what we would like to share with you now are sort of the fundamentals of our strategic plan. Bill Haskell is fond of telling me he's been involved in writing a lot of strategic plans in his career, and this one is rather unique in that it's a framework that allows us to make decisions in the moment. The world is changing so fast. It doesn't really make sense for us to sit down at the beginning of 2022 and itemize very specific objectives about what's going to happen in the next 5 years. We can't do that. So we built a framework for so that we'll be able to make decisions in alignment with our values and with our goals. So the fundamentals of this plan We're going to go through those today. And just so that you know, every year the staff comes up with an action plan or a work plan where we're going to get more specific. But we're going to stay kind of general today. And I've asked board members and members of the Strategic Planning Committee and the staff to participate in this process with me. So we're going to hear some different voices from mine. And the first one is Bill Haskell, who is our board co-chair, and he's been a member of San Francisco Village for a long time. Yeah, Bill?
8 years.
8 years. Cool. All right. Would you like to read our new mission statement?
Sure. Thank you, Kate. Our mission statement is our purpose. Our mission is our purpose, what we do and why we do it. We operationalize love for elders in an ageist society by mobilizing the power of intergenerational relationships and mutual support.
Thank you, Bill. I've shared this mission statement with some colleagues in the last few weeks, and their ears really perk up when we say operationalize love. So it's going to be really fun to define that in the next many years. Thanks. Gretchen Oddie is our other board co-chair. And Gretchen, you're going to read our vision statement.
Yes, thanks, Kate. So our vision is the long-term transformational change that we are aiming for. We envision a future in which people of all ages, races, cultures, and abilities work together to create communities of belonging, and in so doing, model possibilities for relationship and connection that benefit the greater good.
That's a big vision. And it may take the rest of our lives to achieve it, but I think that makes it a good vision statement. It includes a lot of people. All right. Now we're going to talk about our values. And as you can see, I can't see, but you can. Our values are the essence of our organization, the shared principles that guide our work. I was having a conversation with a funder yesterday and reminding him how values-driven our organization is. They come into play with every decision. So the first person is going to read is Jessica De Silva, our wellness coordinator. Jessica.
Sorry, I was muted. Intersection of healthcare and social care. We believe optimal health, especially as it relates to navigating the transitions of aging, requires social connection, access to care, and knowing that we belong to something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah. I will always be grateful to Bill Haskell for bringing this terminology to our attention, the intersection of healthcare and social care. And it's guiding us in a lot of what we are doing and planning and working with the healthcare world. And so thank you. Next up is Bobby Rothman, who was a member of our strategic planning committee for about 8 months, I think.
Right.
Bobby.
Yeah. Eldership. And I have to say, I had never heard this phrase until I was on the committee. We believe the wisdom and lived experience of elders is precious and much needed in the world today. We encourage our members to embrace new learning as we orient to a changing future, seeking opportunities to share and lead as we deepen our community.
Thank you, Bobby. Yeah, I think it's a topic that requires a lot of exploration, and it's going to be fun to do that. What is eldership? Next up is Jill Ellefson, our member services and volunteer coordinator.
Thanks, Kate. Intergenerational relationships. We believe people of all ages need each other to thrive and that the world needs intergenerational solutions to complex problems like inequality, climate crisis, racial justice, isolation, and loneliness. We come together to explore the possibilities.
Yeah. Thank you, Jill. Yeah, so much of what we do is not possible without our younger friends. Next up is Neeti Patel, our administrative assistant. Neeti.
Co-creation. We believe in standing shoulder to shoulder with one another to build a caring community that reflects the beauty of its varied members.
Thank you, Neeti. Neeti's been on board with us for about 6 months. It's been great to have her. You add a lot. Next up is Steve Hayashi. Are you here, Steve? Yeah, I didn't see him log in. Okay, so I will read this. Equitable community. We strive to be an anti-racist organization and commit to challenge white dominant culture through our words and actions. We all have a lot to learn there, especially as older white people. We've been doing a group every month for about a year now, looking at race. And one of the first topics we talked about is white identity. And so many of us on the call were like, you know, I've never had this conversation. I'm in my 60s or 70s and I've never talked about white identity. So it's opening a lot of doors, a lot of changes afoot. Next is Barbara Kivowitz, who's been on our board of directors now for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. Barbara.
Hi, everybody. The value I'm going to speak about is self-reflection, that it starts with ourselves. As agents of change in the outer world, we accept the responsibility to do our own inner work and the discomfort and opportunities that may bring. We strive to live our values in all our words and behaviors and to hold ourselves accountable for our growth.
Thank you, Barbara. Next up is Jill again.
Humility. As leaders in the village movement, we promise to let go of old assumptions about aging and individualism, to challenge conventions and that create separation and hierarchy, and to act in ways that inspire trust, growth, and connection.
Thanks, Jill. And next up is Sarah Kent. Everybody knows Sarah. She's our program coordinator. Sarah.
Spontaneity. We believe in saying yes to play, partnerships, collaboration, and opportunities that arrive unexpectedly and help take us to new places.
Yeah. Yeah, you said it, sister. So let's move on to our priorities. So we have 4 strategic priorities that are going to guide our work for the next 5 years. And I've asked a few people to share just a short description of what these priorities are. And the first one is Joanne Lowe. Joanne has been on our board for about 4 or 5 years. I think currently Joanne is the board secretary. So Joanne, take it away.
Racial equity. To ensure our programs and services create a more diverse organization and advance racial equity for our current and future members. San Francisco is a diverse city of many cultures, races, and ethnicities, and yet San Francisco Village serves a predominantly white membership. San Francisco Village will strive to challenge the assumptions that uphold white dominant culture and make every effort to give greater access to programs and services for Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian Pacific Islanders, and other less represented communities of San Francisco.
Beautiful. Thanks, Joanne. Next up is Sarah Kent.
Intergenerational community. To maximize the potential of our intergenerational community of members, caregivers, volunteers, and families. While San Francisco Village primarily serves older adults as they age, the power of the organization comes from the rich tapestry of stakeholders who come together to execute the mission. Younger and older adults working together and sharing interests, the children of aging adults learning how to support their parents, young volunteers offering time and support to members, and members of all ages sharing their expertise with another.
Thank you, Sarah. Next up is Bill. Bill Haskell. I think you're on mute, maybe.
The bane of my existence. I'll never, here we are. Social justice. To position our members and our organization to engage in the work of social justice, San Francisco Village recognizes that we are rooted in a larger social context, a microcosm in an interdependent social world. Members have shared their desire to contribute time and energy toward local and global issues they care about, which include racial equity, climate justice, inequality, voting rights, and guaranteed access to basic human rights. To name a few, we acknowledge our privilege and seek to leverage it in service to others. This priority responds to our members' need to know that their actions are purposeful, which gives meaning to their lives.
Beautiful. And finally, Mary Lanier. Mary is a board member. She's been with us for a couple of years, and we're delighted to have her on the team. Mary.
Our final priority is the intersection of healthcare and social care. To strengthen the position of San Francisco Village at the intersection of healthcare and social care. For 13 years, San Francisco Village has been building the infrastructure for delivering social care, which we define as high quality connections, access to resources, mutual aid and support, opportunities for volunteerism and social integration, and contributing to the greater good. Research shows that social integration, a sense of belonging, and trusted close relationships will add years to a person's life and quality to those years. In response to what has been called an epidemic of social isolation and loneliness, the healthcare industry, including blessedly now the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, or CMS, recognizes an urgent need to innovate and improve social support for older adults. Operating at the intersection of social care and healthcare, San Francisco Village is very well positioned to respond to this need. At San Francisco Village, we believe social care is healthcare.
Beautiful. Thanks, Mary. Thanks to everybody for contributing your voices to this. And we have just one more slide to wrap this up. Basically, how are we going to do it? Like I said, we'll come up every year with an annual work plan with really specific objectives. But basically, we have 4 levers that will enable us to do this. That's our people, our partnerships, our services, and our programs. So in terms of people, we will develop an inclusive recruitment strategy, and ability to talk to more people of a variety of backgrounds and ethnicities and cultures. That will be mostly through partnerships. We'll increase opportunities for leadership and engagement among our membership. When you join, I know there's a lot of you have so much talent and things to contribute, and finding ways for that to happen. And we will invest in training. For example, we will maintain the relationship with our diversity, equity, and inclusion trainer, so that as things come up, we can continue to learn. Partnerships. We're seeking to identify partners in the Black, Latinx, and Asian Pacific Islander communities, people that have a footprint in that community that can help us engage with older adults and find out what their needs are and how we might adapt what we do to meet their needs. We have to be ready for the fact that this outreach effort and these conversations with different communities are going to change us. And we're aware of that. We welcome that. I see that as an expansion. I don't see this as a zero-sum game. You know, we have this pie and it only goes so far. I believe the pie just keeps getting bigger. Our services, we have a relationship with Sutter Health at the Mission Bernal campus, and we plan to expand our HRPP to the Davies campus. HRPP stands for Hospital Readmission Prevention Program. So we're going to be expanding that. And we also want to do some work focused on caregiving and caregivers, because all of us at some point in our lives will be one of the two. And understanding that most of us have close family members that care for us, either temporarily or permanently, and the burden that can present to some families. We want to do some work there to alleviate some of that burden. In our program, of course, identifying opportunities that meet the needs of different people, like I said, being open to being changed. And the idea of building out our circle structure. Our neighborhood circles right now, we have 15 of them. 13 of them are geographic, and 2 of them are special interest. One is an LGBTQ circle, and the other is a solo agers circle. So we want to, that's been very successful, that structure. So we want to build that out to focus on more special interests. So with that said, I am going to stop the share because that's all we have in the PowerPoint. And we hope that we have stimulated a lot of thoughts and questions, and we want to know your responses. So Sarah is going to break us up into breakout rooms. Of course, that took longer than we thought it was going to take. So let's see if we can go into breakout rooms for 15 minutes. And Sarah has posted the questions in the chat to remind you. Sarah, how many groups do we have?
We have 9 groups, and it looks like they're between 8 and 7 people each.
So
of course, now we have a few people hopping off, which kind of changes the structure of them.
Okay. Okay. So when you get in these discussions, you know, just be aware, be mindful that there's other people that also want to talk, but you know, we want to hear your authentic, your genuine, you know, feelings and responses to what we've shared with you today. So have a good discussion. And then when we come back, we're going to want to hear some highlights. So think about that too. Is there 1 or 2 things that comes out of your discussion that somebody would like to share with the larger group? Okay, here we go. See you soon. Welcome back, everybody. I hope that was a good discussion. Would anybody like to share anything that came up in your discussion? Reactions, ideas, criticism, support?
I see Gretchen's hand up.
Gretchen.
Yeah, the group I was with, we had a really great discussion about bringing sort of equity and DEI into the village. And it kind of morphed into this conversation about not being so obvious about it, in the sense of an example that Arabella gave of, you know, her music community is very diverse because people have a passion around it, and that invites the diversity. And so thinking about, you know, interest groups as circles, which I know has been talked about as well, but this idea of, you know, kind of passions as being a way to bring in that diversity, just because people in music, or the creative arts in particular, tend to be very diverse. And yeah, I thought it was a great discussion about where circles could go, as well as how to think about bringing diversity in maybe a less obvious kind of way.
That's a great idea. Passion invites diversity. That's beautiful. Thank you. Great, great comment. Anybody else? Was Barbara's hand raised?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was raising my hand. We had a wonderful group and a wonderful discussion. And we all acknowledged that the plan and the values are both daunting and incredibly exciting, and hopeful and comforting, aspirational, and the path to them is going to be multifold. And we don't know the path yet. But some of the ideas that came out, Gail, who is a circle leader, was thinking in terms of the circles and perhaps to even build tighter connections. People in circles could partner up with each other in dyads and shift dyads and get to know each other at a deeper level that way. And Gail, you had another idea about the circles that I'm not remembering at the moment, but Linda had a wonderful idea in talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and not kind of like doing diversity for diversity's sake, but being very genuine and real and going into the neighborhoods and using the public libraries as platforms, as centers in the community to meet people and to inform people about the village.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That's great. Mitchell, what would you like to add to this?
Okay, we're talking about white privilege and so there, but one thing you need to consider is that there are white privilege is usually considered white people who are of the Christian religion, especially Protestantism. There are white minorities in this country. I'm Jewish, I'm a white minority. There are white Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, and others, and they're all looked down upon as less white by the white power structure, the Protestant white power structure. So you need to keep that in mind.
Well, you know, it's an interesting point that you raise, Mitchell. We've had this conversation in our discussion group several times that you don't need to be white to have internalized the white dominant culture. It exists within people of a variety of colors and ethnicities and cultures. And so it's just even more important that we deconstruct that to better understand. But thank you. Joanne, you had a comment.
I was just going to report back on the group that I was a part of. And in terms of how the members can help with the plan, I think the group felt like they would have really liked to have seen more examples of what has worked in the past and what didn't work as a way of helping us come up with some ideas. And it seems like over the years, some of us are still having a problem asking for help. And what can we do to be able to feel more comfortable asking for assistance? And I know that as the board and the staff, that's a question that we're always working on. In terms of the values, I think one of the things, Betty Barr was part of our group and she's the co-chair of Sunset, as well as the solo aging group. And they said they started doing something where I guess each member each month would give their autobiography, and that was a way of getting to know each other more. And that the solo agent group, they're doing a book study about who will take care of me when I'm old. Another group, they're doing exercising and going out like for walks together as a way of getting to know each other better. Because I think members of the circles, I feel like some of them, what I'm hearing is that they gel and they're calling each other outside of San Francisco Village activities, while others are still relying on the structure. And would probably be helpful if we would do exit interviews, which I think you do some of that, Kate. But as for the members to say what works and what doesn't work, or coming up with ideas, it'd be nice to know what some of those reasons are.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne.
Sure.
This is that we're really on new ground these days in terms of ideas. We had a lot of great ideas generated in our group, and I just want to push back a little bit and say I'm not that interested in the past, what's worked and hasn't. I'm really interested in what's going to be generated going forward, and I hope that there's enough here to generate some new ideas. A few things that we heard in my group was that we go back to this notion of stories and storytelling as being such an important technology, if you will, or vehicle for relationship. And so I take that to heart, and we're going to talk a lot about that as we reach out to other communities. Another thing we heard from Margaret Mishner was a great reminder of the work she's familiar with, some work being done in the Indigenous community around land recognition and understanding, a lot of the history of, how we came to be here, and sort of there's something very grounding in that. And I know that there were other ideas that came up. Music was another thing that came up for us, as it did in someone else's group. So I think these are just generatively juicy ideas about, moving forward with a new framework. Margaret suggested that the plan itself felt really unifying. And I love to hear that because I think that is certainly our intention. And I hope that gives people a lot of energy around, how can we manifest this? Someone else said that the plan is aspirational. Strategic plans are by nature aspirational. That's right. It's a dream. It's kind of like, who do we hope to become? How we manifest it is up to us. And it is ever evolving. And as we said before, emergent ideas, emergent strategies will keep coming to us. We are 3 minutes past 2. And I can see that there's a few more hands up. For those of you who can stick around for another 5 or 10 minutes, we would love it. If you have to jump off because you have another appointment, we understand. But I'd love to get as many people, to share their comments as possible. Irene Cohen, you have a comment?
You're on mute.
I may have missed some of this. Do we do as a group political action? Because what concerns me is when you talk about intergenerational stuff, the biggest tragedy right now is how our children are being shortchanged. The subsidies for parents, the whatever.
Childcare.
Yeah, they've been cut. They were, and it helped to bring children out of poverty, and now they're being dropped right back into it. And
Right.
we as elders can, need to speak for the children. So
there is room for those discussions, absolutely, within San Francisco Village. All it requires, Irene, is some leadership and some chutzpah. Bill Haskell's a good example. He's been leading this effort around the dialogue around climate action, getting us involved in Bill McKibben's third act. And so that's a great model, actually. So yes, to your question. Bill.
Oh, I'm not on mute. Good. We talked about a number of things in our group, but one of the things we talked about was the innovative design of our strategic plan and how it gives, because it is aspirational and there will be an action plan every year, it gives you, Kate, and the staff the opportunity to try things out and to see what's successful and what's a challenge, and then to build the next action plan the next year based on the experience of the prior year. And Miles pointed out that even failure can be viewed as success. Yes. Because you have to try a lot of things and you can learn from failure. So we don't have to go into the past. We can go into our own experience right now, and you have the freedom to try things. Some of them are going to work, some of them won't. That's how we learn.
Yeah.
Just have to keep throwing spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
Well, that's one way to put it.
And we have examples of that. Sarah has tried over the last couple of years a number of ways to bring members together around climate action, and it really hasn't gelled. And then Bill, you jumped in with Linda Lewin and some other people in Ashby Village and just changed it up and doing it differently. And now we're gonna, get involved with Third Act. So I agree. I think that we don't get stopped by failure, and we don't get stopped by those things that didn't take off in the moment. We come back, we revisit them. Are there any other comments? Before I call on you again, Mitchell, I just want to make sure that everybody's had at least one opportunity to talk if they want to.
I see Linda Lewin's hand up.
Okay, Linda Lewin.
I was trying to get Eve Auchenschloss's discussion group continued in the village, because she's now in assisted living, but there seems to be some resistance, and apparently maybe somebody complained that she wasn't included or something, but I didn't feel it was inclusive enough from different points of view. But every meeting I went to at her house seemed to be fine, so I don't think we should stop having discussion groups.
No.
Urban events like voting rights and stuff like that.
It'll be reborn. We will find a way to do that. Thank you, Linda. Shannon, would you like to make a comment?
I would, just the last couple of minutes in group, somebody brought up next door, and one of the group was talking about getting involved. I would just like to tell you that I signed up last May, and it has taken me the last 2 months of this year to get out of it by repeatedly trying to unsubscribe from different things. And I did not find the experience either rewarding or very interesting after a while, because I was getting 20 and 25 notifications a day that were absolutely ridiculous and of no use to anyone. And I do not recommend Nextdoor.
Thank you, Shannon. It's always great to hear members' personal experiences with things, and then that can help guide people in what direction they want to go. We also want to hear from Jessica, who had her hand raised. Jessica.
Just very quick. This came up during our conversation in my group. We will be sending a link to the strategic plan. So if anyone is interested in reading calmly in their own time, they can do that.
And I will add to that, please visit the website. It's been updated recently with a lot of this new language and ideas. And if you go to the About page, there's a beautiful story that we've written about our history and our evolution. And at the end of that story is a link to the strategic plan. And as Jessica said, we're also going to be sending this out. I think it's tomorrow, right, Jessica?
I believe so. Sarah can confirm.
We're going to do an email in the next day or two so that you can link to it as well. That's terrific. Deborah.
What I haven't seen through SF Village is a way to announce and do outreach on interesting and compelling things that are happening around the city. For example, I don't know how many people saw this incredible exhibit at Land's End, which takes the old Cliff House, and there's art there, and somebody who is a village member but hadn't known about it, and she's somebody I connected through. Victoria Hack drove. She's big on driving. Now she's been telling me, oh God, it was so wonderful. I've told all these other people, I'm taking these other people. But I don't know about other things. like certain exhibits that are coming up at the Alice Steele exhibit I'm looking forward to at the museum, how to, do group outings.
So a couple different ways for that to happen, Deborah. One is every week Jill sends out a bulletin. And Jill, does it still go out on Wednesdays? And Jill includes a lot of things in that bulletin, including volunteer requests, but also things that are happening around the city. And I'm pretty sure that that Cliff House exhibit was in one of Jill's bulletins. I also think that a neighborhood circle planned an outing to go see that exhibit, and that was published in the newsletter. So you can use these communication vehicles. And if you learn of something that you want to share with others, you can let us know, and we can either get it into the bulletin or into the newsletter. And then if you participate in a neighborhood circle, you can share it there. Or if you're making other relationships through the village, you might find some others that are interested, and kind of all of you keep your eyes and ears open. It's hard to keep up with everything that's going on in our city. But that's one way to do it. And I think that we have not heard from Jamie, who's got his hand raised. Jamie? Jamie, I think you're on mute. Well, maybe not. Okay, maybe he'll come back. Is there anybody else that has not had an opportunity to speak and wants to?
Yes.
Who's that?
Jean Powell.
Jean.
I just mentioned during our group meeting, our small group meeting, I mentioned the possibility of each of us reaching out to the younger people we meet and inviting them to be volunteers. And if they happen to be of different diversities, if they see what as volunteers, they can see what the group is about, and they bring in their own elders.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's really another benefit to being an intergenerational community. Younger generations are vastly more diverse than us older generations here in San Francisco. Yeah.
That's why I was so happy to hear that people were interested in the caliber of education in the public schools and reaching out to students, because the students benefited from our earlier endeavors decades ago. The schools integrated, they got to know each other and started working together on different matters instead of being at odds with one another.
Okie doke, great. So I think Linda and Mitchell, I think you have comments. I just want to point out that it's 2:15. And for anybody that, Linda, is it urgent? It looks urgent. What is it?
I just wanted to say about Nextdoor. I had a very positive experience with Nextdoor when the pandemic first started. Nextdoor people asked seniors if they posted that they're available to do our shopping and stuff when it was scary to go to the store in the very beginning. And this one man in my neighborhood was so nice. He didn't even want me to pay him. He didn't let me pay him for the groceries. Other people, a couple went to Trader Joe's for me, and they've been really, really nice.
Well, that's great. You had a positive experience. Well, so I want to thank you for your attention and for your interest in your own village and the direction that we are going in. It sounds positive. It sounds like you're on board. And we're really excited about that. So please do visit the website, read through the plan at your leisure. And we're always open to feedback and suggestions and your participation. And we've learned long ago that member satisfaction directly correlates with participation. So jump in. We have a woman on our call today who this is her very first San Francisco Village meeting. And I just want to applaud you again. It's Patricia. I applaud you for hanging in there with us. And I look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Okay.
All
You
right.
will.
Thank you, everybody. Yep.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Take
you.
good care. Stay well.
Do good.
Do good.